banks in. But then in later years, it became more expensive to keep in the banks, and they gradually went out. It was a nice place to walk. You could walk down this road and up on the riverbank and get a beautiful view of town, one that you can't get any other area. The first house down there belonged to Wilkes or Collins. You remember them? And they took in boarders and various activities. Then the corner, not mentioning any names. I really don't know. The corner house was Captain John Sharp. Some of you may remember Vashti Sharp. She worked in the post office. Well, her father was a sea captain, and he was the last active sea captain in the town. And unfortunately, he had planned to retire and make one more trip, but he never came back from it. Ty said she used to stand there and look up the speech notes, see if her father was coming home. Really sad.
Where had you been, Carolyn?
One of the southern ports. But you see, along the coast of the Carolinas is very hazardous because of hurricane activities in that area. And so many of the fatalities occurred in that region. Then this next house, as I remember, I don't know if you, Darlene, it used to have a long shed-type porch with a plastered ceiling.
Which house?
In the front.
Right next door?
Yeah, next. It was more picturesque than it is now. There were two other houses that had those plastered ceiling porches. You remember them? One was Uncle Tommy Robbins. They called him Uncle Tommy Robbins. He drove the stagecoach for the mail and passengers to the station. And he lived on the corner of Noble and 2nd Street. It's now a vacant corner there that River owns. There was an old house there that had one of these porches with a plastered ceiling. There's only one other one in the town that I remember, and that was where one of our members lived, up beyond the little ditch or creek there. Well, it sets back.
The Mayhews have
Preston's house.
Yeah.
And Harry Mayer and Susie lived there in later years. Across the street was the shipyard. That was Joe Vanneman and his son Frank Vanneman lived where you live. That had the shipyard, and there may have been someone before that, but they're the first ones I've heard of. And the shipyard was very active. They employed a great number of people comparatively. And the oyster boats and also seafaring boats, because there were a great many captains in this town. They didn't always bring their vessels in the river after a trip. They'd often leave them in the Philadelphia area and come down by train. But if you have any questions along the way to stimulate my recall,
excuse me, Carolyn, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. Some of the captains from Mauricetown would leave their ships in Philadelphia and take a train down to.
Go down by train.
How about? I never knew that before. I thought they all had their ships right along here.
Well, you see, sometimes they didn't have a need for coming. They saved time and having their cargoes unloaded and loaded up there at the port.
That's very interesting.
So. I was mentioning about this shed roof with a plastered ceiling that isn't there anymore. They modernized it and I think destroyed its charm and attractive. But that was a very active shipyard, building and repairing boats. And
Carolyn, you mentioned something about a stagecoach.
a stagecoach. Yes, well, the nearest railroad station in the older days was out at Underwood Station. You know where that was? Beyond Haleyville. It was a branch of the Bridgeton train. It came down to Marsh River. And that branch was built because of the oyster industry. And they made a stop at the road out beyond Haleyville. If you go right on out through Haleyville, right straight on out west, you'll finally come to this old, I think the tracks are still there. And that's the only station. And the mail and passenger service for Mauricetown was conducted there. Uncle Tommy Robbins, everyone called him Uncle Tommy Robbins, lived in that house that Ed Fisher tore down or burned down on the corner of Noble and Second with the plaster ceiling porch. He drove the stage, they called them stages then, stagecoach, for passengers and mail meeting every train. And I remember Mama saying one time she's going up to Bridgeton to visit her sister, my Aunt Audra. And it was winter time, and he had buffalo robes to put over the knees of his passengers. He was open carriage, like with just curtains to put down. And he said, "Got enough kivers, Annie?" Buffalo robes.
Excuse me, Carolyn, what years?
They are
What years were they?
Oh, that would be back in the 1890s and early 1900s, before they had the electric, or the branch brought down from Millville on down to Bival. In later years, the oyster industry was sufficient for them to make that branch from Millville down. So then this use of the station from Bridgeton area down to Underwood was discontinued for the Mauricetown people because this was nearer. Then the stage went out over the bridge and out to the old station. Cox, you remember Cox?
Bill Cox.
Bill Cox. He drove, well, it was an automobile by that time that met the train station. Bill Cox lived in the house next to the Masonic Hall.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And, well, that was his father, Isaac Cox lived there, Bill lived there first.
Yeah.
And then he lived around where Kate's lived.
yeah. They lived up near, when he died, he lived up in, they were, Hankins lived, next to Nancy, Aunt Mary and Bill.
Now, where do we go from here?
Keep going.
Well, the next house, to the house that was torn down, the stagecoach house, was the ship carpenter's home, Bannerman. He lived there, it was Frank Bannerman's parents. And that's where Frank was raised, and Mrs. Bateman. Mrs. Lizzie Bateman, Walter Bateman lived next door to me. Oh, that's where she grew up. She was a sister to Frank Bannerman, who was superintendent of Sunday school. I'm skipping around one thing to another, but
That would be Janet Panko's grandmother. Janet's grandmother. Janet Panko's grandmother.
yes, that's right.
Lived in the house where Hex lived when she died.
Then, the
Yes,
next house,
there's where Freddie Hunt lived.
oh, okay, Freddie's old house, where Lakers lived.
Uh-huh.
Where Lou Gerberow lived was the Pritchards.
Yeah.
Now, the Pritchards had come down from upstate New Jersey to build the church. The church was built in 1880, and Griffith Pritchard was the architect and builder.
Oh, wow.
And he had 3 daughters, the oldest one, Miss Annie, and you've seen her photograph in the academy. She was a teacher there. Everybody called her Miss Annie, didn't call her Miss Pritchard, Miss Annie.
Jane, and who's that?
Her sister Clara married Milt Compton, who lived right across the street where the Schroeders lived. And Miss Annie spent all her teaching years right there in that building. She was very good. Her sister Jenny married Peterson, Uncle Ike Peterson's son, who was also a sea captain, but he was lost at sea. No, he wasn't lost at sea. He died of a southern fever in one of the southern ports. His widow, they had the children, his widow went back to live with the sisters in a house on South 2nd Street. Now the next house is where Fishers lived. Remember Nan Fisher, Ed Fisher? Ed Fisher went into real estate in a big way. He bought, money for him, and he bought houses that were vacant and would attempt to rent them or sell them. But sooner or later, unfortunately, they burned.
He burned all his bridges behind him.
Yeah, so a lot of the old houses were destroyed in that way. Two of them on South Street, where Steve Shropshire lived, and then the butcher shop that Fisher's had, that disappeared in the flames.
The hotel.
Did he have a hotel?
The hotel.
Was that the hotel? Was that his also? The hotel.
The hotel. Where he lived, oh, yes.
Yeah.
And now Anna Fisher, there were 3 children. This Ed, who was a scoundrel, I say it because now I'm alive. And Theodore was an imbecile. Yeah, you go there at the door, see they had a butcher shop right next to facing South or 2nd Street. And you'd go there to get some information and help. And he would always come to the door. He was harmless, but and I don't know how old he was, but he always wore short pants. It was easier for his mother to take care of him that way. So they said. But Anna was very bright, and she taught school and became a supervisor in the local area. Nan Fisher, they call her.
Nan
Fisher. So, one good one out of 3.
Carolyn, going way back in the history of Mauricetown, did you or any of the other people who lived here in town and whose families lived here for a long time, I'm wondering how far back the knowledge of the Swedish cabin went?
The Swedish cabin?
Right.
I can't tell you offhand about that.
Do you think people in
You
town...
mean where the one on the corner there?
Right, the Hoskins cabin.
Well, as we remember, it was Freddie Coleman's grandmother lived there. What was her name?
Yeah,
She was a widow. Her first husband was a sea captain. He died, happened to die of a southern fever. He was on his way home, and he boarded my father's vessel, and he died when he got into New York. I remember at one time, Father told us about leaving church. Mrs. What's her name, came up to him and said, "Oh, Mr. Bacon, I want you to meet my new husband." And she'd married a much younger man. Said,
Yes. Can I call you back or this is a meeting? Yes. I'll be home after, what time is it? About 9:30. Okay, thank you. And also give it the wrong number.
But as far as you know, people in town were not aware that there was a cabin there?
not aware of what?
Not aware that there was a cabin, a log cabin on that site?
Oh, yeah,
Sure.
sure, they knew that, but there wasn't as much to do about things
No.
like that in those days.
I just thought knew there was a cabin, and I wondered how cabins.
You started to tell us about
They
the
say,
little kid.
the father came home from church one time, he said that Mrs. What's her name, had come up to him and said, oh, I want you to meet Captain Bacon, I want you to meet my new husband. I never knew what true love was till I met this man.
Now, who are we talking about? Mary Parkhill? That's not Mary Parkhill.
Parker, that, she
Mary
was
Parkhill
a,
was your
was a daughter, where Parker was the married man. And then father told us a simple tick. Saying that to me, a friend of hers.
Carolyn, in the shipyard, when they built the ships, now where did they get the ropes and everything from, for the rigging and all? That wasn't, they didn't have a rope walk here, did they, where they did a lot of that?
I'm not hearing very well because I couldn't understand what you
No,
said.
I asked when they did the shipbuilding, the
Okay.
shipyard,
Yes.
where did they get the ropes and for the riggings and the other uses? Did they have a rope walk here as well, or did they import all of that?
Well, they went to Philadelphia for a great many things, you see.
Do they have sail makers
So
here?
therefore,
They have sail makers here? Or did they go to Philadelphia for sails? Did
well,
make
they
them
have
here?
sail makers here. There are sail makers in Bival, too. Down the end, that building at the end of the boardwalk in Bival, the first floor was a store for ships, the food and things, canvas and rope and all that sort of thing in the back part of it. And on the second floor was a sail makers area where they cut the sails and sewed them and made them, you know, sail makers. It was a regular trade. But there may have been sail makers right here in this town too. I suppose there were in the old days. There were several different buildings there. It's too bad that's shut off.
Yeah.
And the walk too, because you get a nice view of the town down there. Well, let's see. Oh, I was going to tell you about Steve's, another house that succumbed to Ed Fisher's torch was
Sounds like he was a Jewish
Where-
salesman.
Steve Shropshire's, if you remember Steve. Steve
Oh,
Shropshire.
yeah, Stevie and.
Well, he entered the New Year's parade in Philadelphia every year and took his trained goose with him. He had a pet goose,
Somebody has a picture of that somewhere.
and he had dropped grains, or he trained it by dropping a grain of corn as he walked along. The goose would pick it up and he'd drop another grain. So he taught the goose to follow him that way, and he'd bring it uptown, you know, up to Trivets, the barber shop across the street from where I live. And finally they asked him to go in the New Year's parade. So Minta Cruz, you remember Minta Cruz? Any of you ever hear of Minta, Aaron Minta Cruz? Ben Cruz was a oysterman, and their house was torn down by Dr. Sharp when he needed some lumber for the Leesburg shipyard.
Beautiful
He
house.
bought 2 or 3 buildings and tore them down for the lumber in the wartime.
Where was that?
And that house
Next door
was,
to Robert, next to Robert.
you know where that boat, on Front Street on the east side, that bungalow that sits way down? Well, that's the lot. But this building was a combination of dwelling and store. The house part was on the south side and had a front porch, there was a little fence between, and then the north side was the entrance to the store. So there used to be a great many businesses in the town years ago when there wasn't transportation at more modern times. There were 2 grocery stores, I think 3 at one time, and a blacksmith shop, and the shipyard, of course, and
Carolyn, what was that little, there used to be
beg pardon?
there used to be a nice little building right next to it, in between Janet Panko's house and Leslie's. Oh, that nice little
Oh,
building?
yes,
That was
yes.
a neat little
Oh,
building.
with
What
a door, and to the left of the door was, or right if you're reader, was a show window.
Yeah, they went my little show window. What was that? What was that
Well,
used for?
wasn't that the one that was moved on the Stable Lane?
Carrie Harris house.
Is that?
Isn't that the one that was moved?
I don't think so.
There's one
No, I remember both being there.
Well, that was owned by the Ralph Howe and Dan Howe. Ever hear of them?
Yeah.
You know where Ralph Howe lived? Kate Howe comes down in the summertime. The
Back
end of Noble Street by the river, on the right-hand side. That was Ralph Howe's home. And Dan Howe, his brother, never married, and he had the business there of blacksmith. See, in days of the horseman wagon, was a lot of blacksmith work needed. He had the blacksmith shop, and then later, when the postal service was assigned 1 year or a few years would be in one place, and then the change of politics and would be appointed to go to another place. Well, for a while it was at Dan Howe's, Ralph Howe's store, which was in the lot where Panko's lived. Well, their house was the beginning of that building. Because next to the house, and right up in the corner, was a dwelling that became the Mauricetown Hotel. You knew there was a hotel here one time, right on the corner. It faced Front Street, but it had a side entrance on Noble Street. And that entrance, by a porch, went into the dining room. And the front was built very much like where down the corner of Van Dyke's lived. It was built by the same one, and the same front door with a transom and the side lights and so forth. And that was the front, opened onto the front porch. Well, in the years when license was allowed, that was a political thing. Some years they would have license, for so long, and then you'd go out and you couldn't have it. Well, that was the north side, was the room they used for the saloon. Mr. Hendy, who was from Vineland originally, Mrs. Hendy was a very nice lady. She had a nice little daughter, who was a nice playmate. And they kept a very, very nice establishment there. And in those days, there were a great many salesmen that traveled around, and they would stay overnight at a town and then go and make their visits around. And it was a very popular place. And then also in the fall, in the gunning season, the whalebirds and blackbirds, that was another big season for the hotel business.
How many people could they put up?
Accommodate?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know exactly. I think 20-some. It had the second floor and third floor. And the saloon, I said, was on the north side. And Mr. Hendy, to protect people from, and give them some privacy, had a high board fence built across the Front Street side and along the dividing line to Howell's place. So men could come from Stables Lane in the back way and into the speakeasy. And no one would know.
Were there any fights there? Were there any memorable fights?
Like a speakeasy. But they did a lot of business in the railbird season, as Albert could attest to. How many salesmen traveled from place to place.
Who would cook the food?
Who cooked the
Who
food?
cooked?
Oh, they hired people. So they had enough business for that. Mrs. Hendy didn't do it. She supervised. She was a very nice person. And her little girl was a nice little girl, too, Alice. They went back to Vineland after a while.
But was it owned by Ed Fisher? Was the
Oh,
hotel?
he came in later.
Late,
Oh,
when
no.
it was no longer a hotel, really.
No,
Just,
he hadn't grown up then. Yes.
Was it the only hotel in Morristown?
Hmm?
Was it the only hotel in Morristown?
Only one at the time.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of any others before. There are people who took in boarders, especially in the railbird season. There were several people. There were people who lived where Kate's lived. They took in gunners, they called them, in the gunning season. they would take them in, they do money. And there's several houses around that did that. Well, they come along there next to the hotel where Dan Howell lived, and so he had a blacksmith shop. And at one time, the post office was there. There were in the years when the post office was a political appointment, and the one term would be in one place and another place, and it was there. Both Ralph and Dan took the examination for postmaster. And Ralph's mark was a little higher than Dan's, so he was really the postmaster, but Dan was the one who did all the work.
Which one went to Atlanta?
Oh, they both went down.
I know that.
But Ralph made it all the way, but Dan was, he died of the embarrassment and the heart attack and so forth.
Carolyn,
Who was
here,
there?
He was a very kindly man.
I mean, when
He
you,
was a favorite place for girls
Put the handcuffs on
to play hide and seek all around those buildings. And my mother asked me one time, she said, Dan, doesn't it bother you having those girls there? She says, no, I look out and watch them sometimes. It's all right for the girls from there, but I don't want the boys around. Because they would do damage, you know, but
How many places do you remember the post office being in town? Mine was a lot of different.
well, besides that, I remember in the
Masonic Hall?
building where the fire hall, yes. And that was Mr. Ware who had
That was in the old firehouse, you know,
Yes.
where Roy Reed's in it.
That was a grocery
That was
store.
Christie and Ware's grocery store.
Grocery store, and as you went in, there was the candy
Yeah.
case was on the right. And then the mailbox show, I think, were next. Groceries on the lawn. On the left-hand side was dry goods. Emma Ware put in the dry goods department. She had dry goods by the yard. She had sewing equipment, you know, needles and thread on, which was very convenient in the days when people couldn't get out of town so easily.
It was up at the Masonic Hall too, wasn't it? Post office.
yes.
It was in the Mason's Hall.
I can't hear it.
I say that the post office was also in the Mason's Hall in that building at one time.
Oh, yes.
And then it
Oh,
was the
see,
little building.
It went according to appointment of a political appointment. And of course, the other store had closed, I guess, by then. And Samuel Compton was appointed postmaster, but he didn't do the work himself. He had his daughter Carrie,
Oh, yeah.
Carrie Compton.
Carolyn, here, when this tape recording is being made in 1987, our current head of the Postal Service in town has instituted a new sort of social program with coffee and tea in the morning. And sometimes people look at a rural post office as a social center where the quote old timers would gather around
Oh,
the
yes, they
potbelly
would.
stove and all.
That's
What
right.
was the post office store like as far as social activities were concerned?
Yes, everybody was about the only place that you'd see somebody, you know, and they'd go there and stay a while, you know, visit inside and outside.
That was also a store, a general store too?
General
I
store.
understand. Mhm.
Yeah, the Wares was a general store, and the Buckaloo place had been also. They also sold dry goods there.